will increase its support of this country as Russian forces carry out their brutal assault. Then, one-on-one, we speak with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell about the ongoing war in Ukraine and President Biden's nominee for the Supreme Court. And Hate in America, 1 year after deadly shootings in Atlanta area squad, Asian Americans continue to face physical and verbal abuse amid a nation fighting violence. All that and more on tonight's PBS News Hour.
Hello. So I'm Michelle. I'm here alone thus far. Give me a couple of minutes and we'll see if anyone else is coming tonight. So I'll be right back.
Moving the economy for 160 years. BNSF, the engine that connects us. Consumer Cellular. BDO, accountants and advisors. Supporting social entrepreneurs and their connections to the world's most pressing problems. School Foundation. The Levels Foundation, committed to improving lives through invention in the U.S. and developing countries. Learn at levelsand.org.
Oh, hey. Trying out the virtual background?
Yeah, I turned on Zoom today and they had some new apps in the corner and I'm like, well, look at this. I'm not doing all that, but let me see what I want to do.
Yeah.
So since it's raining here today, I decided I'd try to brighten up my background.
Oh, nice.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good.
So, I got a message from Karen.
Okay.
Saying that she had a meeting and she would be running a little bit late. So,
okay.
I guess it's us because I don't know what has happened to the rest of our group.
Well, we should be used to this by now. No.
That is true.
You know, we start strong and then life gets in the way, you know.
Yes. So anyway, I guess we may as well go ahead and get started. I did not do an agenda for us today.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so, I know.
Oh, we gonna have to freewheel. No.
Yeah, but I did write a little bit of a summary.
Oh, cool.
But let's do the welcome. I was trying to share the screen before. Then I couldn't see if you had come in. Okay. I still can't see you. No, I can close this. And I can close this. Okay, where's Gino? Okay, I don't know why I'm not seeing you over here. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here.
Oh, there you go. Maybe it's set to speaker. Okay. So anyway, welcome everyone to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle, session 17, that goes through August 24th, 2022. This is the 17th public book discussion that we're having. So this has become a habit. We meet on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live streaming on YouTube. We have a website called Reading Changes Lives, where you can learn more about us. There's a blog there with posts related to whatever we're reading. You can also find the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle on Facebook. That's where we post events to the public live streams. So there's a Facebook page by that name. And currently we are reading the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honorée, Fanonne, Jeffers. And tonight's chapters, we're on 3 chapters. What are they? We Sing Your Praises High, Liberty, Equality, Fraternity, God damn it. And what is it called? In the Spot or This Spot? In the Spot. Yeah. So, and I did write a little bit of a summary that was included in the invitation to get us kind of reacclimated. Where is that? Okay, can you see that, Gio?
Not yet. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yep, it's up.
Okay, you want to read?
Sure. Ailey, oh.
Too big?
No. My tongue was like rebelling against me. I'm like, what? Okay. Rewind. Blah, blah. Okay. Ailey adjusts to campus life at Routledge College, where the school hymn is "We Sing Your Praises High," following in the steps of Uncle Root and her parents. Freshman orientation includes a chance for Ailey to question the high female to male gender ratio, and lessons on the school's history by Dean Walters and its curriculum of both liberal arts and vocational tracks, key differences between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Ailey and her roommates, Keisha and Roz, are nicknamed the Two Light Crew. Ailey on the premed track discusses politics with some of the college boys, like Liberté, Égalité, and fraternité. The afrocentric Dr. Oludara takes class on field trip to the spot on campus where enslaved people were held, providing a different view of the school's history. Students differ on perspectives about Harriet Jacobs' connection to a white man, and Roz worries about her reputation when around the Three Amigos. Okay. Yeah, we had a lot going on.
Yeah.
I thought Ailey was going to get sent to the closet. She kept raising her hand.
Yeah. That she's coming out of that private white high school experience, where she was encouraged to speak up.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now she's in the be seen but not heard click. Okay.
Yes.
We don't play that, Mr.
Right. So it's gonna be an adjustment. Yeah. So let's see. So We Sing Your Praises High. That's the name of the school anthem. And that chapter was all about adjusting, right, to campus life. So I don't know. Did you ever go to a HBCU?
No, but a lot of my high school friends did. I purposely chose, well, I chose not to go to college, but I definitely wasn't going to an HBCU because, and perhaps this was just the perception I had, with the energy of my friends was, we going at a party. I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm,
Sound like
mm-hmm,
trouble, okay? I need a little bit more discipline. I need some
mm-hmm.
rules. What, so, but uh and two, I saw it, sort of as some kind of status symbol, because just like I'm not sure if it was this chapter or later or the next one, where I think mentions about, belonging to a Greek sorority, and that, if you want to be a lawyer, everybody in the city where she wants to practice, right, is a member of some kind of Greek fraternity. So you're not going anywhere if you're not part of the club. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
I kind of shied away from that kind of um nepotism, I guess, for a better word, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I was searching for something that a space I could create on my own terms, as opposed to some more, social rules, is the way
Mm-hmm.
I saw it, So
Mm-hmm.
just something different than I'd experienced before. So I don't know. How
So
about you?
did you find that in the military?
I absolutely did. I absolutely did. It was perfect because I was able to um, be uh, independent in a way that affirmed uh, my intelligence and uniqueness. And you would think that's an oxymoron. No, you can't be, unique in a structured military service, but you can. There are plenty. Well, the branch I chose, you can't. You could,
Mm-hmm.
because that was encouraged to problem solve. So the Air Force is more like uh, a corporation than it is actual military, although that we do have weapons of mass destruction and minor
Mm-hmm.
destruction. But you know, but it rewards actual work and potential. Whereas the feedback I'm getting from relatives and friends who are in other services is more like, you better be part of this hive mind, or we're going to punish you for it, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so I think it's a little difficult for the people who excel. They have intellectual and professional excellence and capabilities to excel in, individually in those other branches, because
Mm-hmm.
they really ask you to conform so heavily to tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in that, you have to, if you're the body of people who are in the group are evolving, you have to evolve too, to make sure that the whole piece, the whole organization is effective. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
Air Force does that better than any of the other services,
Mm-hmm.
because they have their polls, I think uh, they really get feedback from, what is going to make us a better, more efficient fighting force, because that's, basically, it looks nice, but basically it's about killing people. And did I say that?
What what was your I don't know what they call it, your
Oh,
job
career.
description, your
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's see. I started off as an aircraft um environmental systems technician, and that basically meant that if something had air uh or electricity going to it, or liquid oxygen or nitrogen, we worked on that.
Mhm.
And then after that, I had a temporary duty as an instructional systems developer, which I thought was wonderful because you got to create, actual programs to teach people how to do particular tasks. And this was before all the nice little computer programs. So we were like writing out, actual, visual cards for the video, for the slide presentation. Okay, I'm dating myself now. Those the carousels where you put the little thing.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
God. But it was so much fun because I got to use, some of my artist
Creative.
skills, right? Artist skills from high school. I'm like, yeah, I know how to draw this. I can think this out. And it was cool. But that, it was just a temporary duty assignment. So when that was over, I had to go back to working on aircraft. And then when I joined the Air National Guard, I switched over to IT. So then I became a computer systems repair person. But that also included, because it's the guard, whatever else was going on in the communications squadron. So that was radio. I learned how to do radio, how to run telephone wire,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
dig trenches. But it was exciting to me because I love learning new things, and just pushing the envelope. And if people need help, yeah, I don't know anything about it, but if you show me what to do, I'm right there, because I like to learn how to do things. But
Did you have to learn how to fly a plane?
oh no, that's somebody else's job. I just needed to make sure it was ready to fly, and then
Okay. Now,
fix
see,
it when it came back.
I guess I would have assumed that would be a part of basic training for the Air Force,
Oh,
but no.
wouldn't that be cool? But it sure would have made basic training a whole lot longer and deadlier. 'Cause how many planes would they have to crash? Well, now
Uh-huh.
they have flight simulators, so you can just get in the room and, crash as many digital planes as you want until they fail you. But I guess, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
that is the kind of thing people think of because flying, the pilots, they have all the glory, Top Gun.
Uh-huh.
What is it? Um, I'm thinking of the movie Red Tails, so prestigious, right?
Uh-huh.
But none of that works without the maintenance and the supply system on the ground because
Right, right.
everything is, it's a coordinated um, a symphony of people and supply.
Yeah. Yeah. My older brother, well, two of my brothers were in the Army. My older brother, his background sounds a lot like yours, with the communication systems, the IT. He was doing that kind of thing. I'm not sure what my brother Larry really focused. No, he was a cook. He was a cook. And then my son also was a cook, quartermaster school.
Yes, which is a very important job. Because I'll tell you what, we needed those box lunches when we were stuck on the flight line with it was 6 inches of snow. The truck's not coming to pick you up. No, you have to wait till shift change. You can't come to the chow hall. Ah, save us.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
yeah.
my son was in Kuwait for a year. And he was telling me, even though he was a cook, you still have to be concerned about stepping on what is it, IED,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
kinds of dangers. But he survived that part of it.
Yes, it's no joke over there. It's
Yeah.
serious.
But what you were talking about flight simulators, and I was thinking about, with this war going on in Ukraine, and I've heard them talk about the issue of they can't fly American planes, so they need, they do know how to fly the planes from Poland, And so there's been that kind of, but I was wondering, well, how long does it take to learn to fly a plane?
Well, that's an interesting question because they go by flight hours. So first you need to know all the systems that run the plane. Um, hmm. And then you have to, you can fly in a simulator, but then you have to actually fly the plane physically. So so it's like, what is it? A muscle memory, so, and they do have, the AI in the airplane. I can't think of right now what it's called, um, but shoot,
Mm-hmm.
autopilot, right? Autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
but look, autopilot can't do everything. It cannot replace what experience or having been in the situation, or you've been trained what to do in case of this type of emergency pops up. You do it. I really, and I think that's probably one of the things that had something to do with the Boeing airplane crashes. In recent years, you know it looks good on paper to the engineers, but functionally, practically up there in that cockpit, if
Mm-hmm.
it's not, first of all, everybody who's up there has a job, and they need to know their job. They need to know what to do in case stuff happens. And if your controls are not, if you're not familiar with it, or there's something that you expect to be there that's not there,
Mm-hmm.
you only have like seconds, if that, to correct it before, you're in a
Bad situation.
oh yeah, because where you gonna go? Right, you're going down. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have flown with a friend who was taking flying lessons. It was just a prop job, propeller, and I was in the back, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But I'm in the back, and I don't have to fly nothing. I'll look out the window.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But no, that's a huge responsibility because these planes are very expensive, and you can't really take a mistake back,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if something fails on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. I hope you got a parachute, okay? That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wow, interesting. So, no, I didn't go to an HBCU either, and um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, my life was so scattered with the way I was moving around, and I ended up going to 3 state colleges, um, and taking 5 years to get a bachelor's because I was moving and losing credits and changing my major from English to political science and losing credits. So it felt
Yeah.
like it took forever for me to get out of college. And then so I started college in September 1977. And I don't know, for some reason, my dream had been to, I was thinking I was going to be a lawyer, but I wanted to do undergrad in political science at American University in DC. And I got accepted. Um, But my father kept fooling around when it was time to fill out the financial aid paperwork. He would never get it done. And so the deadline passed, and so I couldn't go. So I was mad as a hatter. And he had, so I said, okay, well, I can't go where I want to go. I'm not going to college. I'll fix you, right?
Who's going to suffer? No.
So they didn't bother me. The summer that I graduated from high school, I just hung out and had a good time. And my parents didn't pressure me about anything. And they did tell me that I could go, they could afford to pay for me to go to Delaware State, and I could live with some church lady.
Oh.
And I was like,
so exciting.
It's not going to happen. So they just let me go on. I was running around. They had bought me a car, and so I'm just running around having a good time. And then that September, my father came in the house one day and he said, "Come on, I want you to go with me." And he took me over to Trenton State College. And supposedly we were just having a tour of the campus. But by the time the day was over, I had a bag full of books.
It was a trick.
It was a trick. I had a bag full of books and a list of courses.
Little did she know. No.
Yes. Hey, Karen.
Hey, Karen. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I just, so I did Trenton State. And then he passed away in August of 79. So I had done like maybe 3 or 4 semesters at Trenton State. No, maybe I think I did a year at Trenton State. And then the family moved from Trenton, New Jersey to East Orange. So then I decided that, my father said that he could afford to let me go to Uppsala there, a private college, because they had a pay by month plan. So I am, in the process of getting enrolled there. And then he passed away in August of 1979, just before I would have entered. So once again, I'm like, all right, this college thing it's not working out for me. And one of my girlfriends, Cynthia Jackson, she was a student at Jersey City State College. And she said, "Come to Jersey City. I can show you how to get financial aid." So by this point, I was old enough that I could apply for financial aid on my own. I could declare myself independent. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I was at Jersey City for a year. That's where I lost a bunch of credits that didn't transfer from Trenton. But I didn't really like Jersey City that much. Jersey City was a very urban, campus, very concrete. And I like trees and grass and green stuff. So my mom ended up, after my dad passed, my mom bought a house in Newark that was not so far away from Kane, another state college, Kane College, now Kane University. And so I transferred there, and I think I was 2 years at Kane before I finally graduated. Then I was out of school for about 10 years, trying to figure out how I was going to pay for grad school. So I'm working, and finally, I had taken some grad courses in New York. I was working in New York, and I had taken some grad courses at CUNY, but I was living in New Jersey, so I'm paying out-of-state fees to go to school in New York. So that doesn't compute very well. So then I ended up getting a fellowship to do grad school back at Kane. So 10 years after graduating from college, I entered grad school. So we're talking about whether or not we had gone to any of us had gone to HBCUs, Karen. Karen, let's do your introduction.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Karen Johnson, and I live in Salt Lake City. And this is my book.
All right. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
So I did not go to an HBCU, neither did Geo. How about you?
So on my graduate level, I went to my HBCU. I went to Atlanta University, which is now in Clark, Atlanta. And it was a wonderful experience. My undergrad was at City College of New York. And then I went to, maybe about 3 years later, I applied to Atlanta University. But in between that time, I had gone to other graduate schools in New York. I went to NYU. I went back to City for a particular graduate program. I think it was 2 different ones, in fact. And then eventually I decided that I wanted to relocate to Atlanta, and I went to Atlanta University and finished my master's in educational psychology.
All right.
So does Ailey's experience look familiar to you?
So given that I was a graduate student, and so thus, someone who was a little bit more mature, because I also was a school teacher. So I'm a different kind of, student in that, a non-traditional student. Well, not non-traditional, just much more of a mature student, because it was on the graduate level. And the students I interacted with were also more mature students. But being in the HBCU environment, the AUC Center, which is Clark, Morehouse, Spelman, Morris Brown, ITC, excuse me, Atlanta University. The ITC was the interdenominational institute for folks who were studying to be ministers, either with Kojic, Baptist, AME, etc. And so that I loved the environment, because for the first time I was interacting with professors, Black professors who were, had their doctorate degree, were very professional, had a sense of being in the AUC centered. I did have a sense of pride, because it was mostly an undergrad environment. I did get to see that undergrad culture there. Football time was, and homecoming was really, really big during that time. Those were fun kind of experiences for the undergrad students with regards to It's just really fun going to HBCU football game in the fall, particularly a homecoming. It's just really a wonderful experience, right? And culturally Black experience. I also taught at a HBCU. I taught at Southern University in New Orleans. And then being that, so that's an HBCU, but also it's also New Orleans, and New Orleans have a particular kind of Black cultural experience. And so that, being a professor there with students and having to go to graduation, you see that folks were really into doing second lines. Parents might have some music behind them. Their kids are graduating, and the parents are doing second line as a way of celebrating. So yeah, I really, really love attending HBCU as well as teaching at one. Now, one thing I do see that she brings up in this is that she speaks to issues of a lack of resources, unfortunately. And I definitely saw that as a professor teaching at Southern University in New Orleans. And in fact, when I started my position as assistant professor there, I came under a special, okay, so Southern University is a state school. So you have Southern University in New Orleans, you have Southern in Baton Rouge, right? And then you have Southern in Shreveport. And then, so that was the Black state school. And then the white state schools were LSU and UNO, University of New Orleans. And so LSU, that's the white school in the counterpart to that is Southern Baton Rouge, right? The Black school. And then you have Southern University of New Orleans, that's the Black school, and UNO, University of University of New Orleans, that's the white school. And so anyway, there's of course a history of racial segregation. I'm just want to share this part because there's, this legacy of institutionalized racism and disparities in funds when it comes to education, et cetera. There's been a long legacy of HBCUs, particularly state ones, not being funded, especially the state Black schools, not being funded on the level that white state colleges and universities are, right? Maryland just, I know a few years ago, kind of settled a lawsuit. So Louisiana, the Black community did a lawsuit, filed a lawsuit against the state of Louisiana for this long history of disparities in funds. And so in '98, when I came to teach, the lawsuit was settled. And the part of the lawsuit was to hire professors and also implement courses that the white state schools did not, as a way to attract more students. And so I was brought under to help develop a master's in teaching at this SUNO that had also a perspective of training teachers, in-service teachers, to work effectively in the school system that use, culturally relevant pedagogies and things like that, and had an urban focus and social justice focus. And so that was a good experience, but because of the long legacy of disparities, I really saw that in the resources. Like for example, when I would go to the school university library, it was not computerized. Literally, I was totally shocked. I'm talking about in '98, where remember back in the day, you talk about in the '70s, I remember going to the library and you pulling out the card catalog. And so in '98, that's how the library was. And so it was not computerized. And then even students registering for classes, I remember in the '70s, we had to stand in line in the gym at City College to register by hand, And that was in '98, the same process at this HBCU. So you see the disparities were so great. And so in this book, where she talked about even though she didn't talk about the disparities in resources, that's the thing that is coming through with regard to her experiences, even with the rodents and not having the resources to how do you deal with these rodents and other pests in those environments. And it does speaks to the disparities in resources. But the other part that I really like that she talks about is how the sense of pride and the sense that the educators in these spaces had a sense of commitment to their students, and they wanted to instill that pride and that and also instill a sense of there's a term that Black women use in the 19th century, and that's to uplift the race, right? And then, or terms that we use later, you know, past the 19th century is lifting as we climb. And so these are the things that you see with the professors, that level of commitment. They're not there for the money, but they're committed to the community. And they're committed to the community because they know that our relationship, the educators' relationship to their students and to the community are interrelated, because it's not just about our own individual person, you know, getting my degree and I'm going to do this and the other. We had a history of understanding that it is the collective, it is all of us to uplift each other. Because if we don't, we all gonna, you know, we're not going to succeed. And that is, I don't see that in present day. And I don't see that in this kind of level of commitment in present day, because we've gotten so much.
Even among Black educators?
Black educators, or even us as Black people in our own, and I don't want to essentialize us as Black people, but what I'm trying to say is that we have to have a collective sense of obligation to each other, and that it should not be about our individual self. I'm just going to get mine and later for y'all. It cannot be that. We live in a white supremacist, patriarchal, sexist nation that is about holding on to that power structure, right? And that if we're going to succeed, it's not about us consuming material goods. It is about our collective continuing to fight for our rights and justice and equity and our success in this society. Because if we don't do it, we're not going to move forward as a people in terms of being able to take care of ourselves, because we cannot depend on this. The nation is that is going to hold on to. I mean, look at what's going on now. You know, Biden makes a speech a few weeks ago. In that speech, we don't hear nothing about Build Back Better. We don't hear anything about the George Floyd bill. We don't hear nothing about the voting rights bill. So it's passed. You know, I feel that he has he betrayed his voters, the people who voted for him. And now we turn around and we see that you know, these people want to vote trillions of dollars to Ukraine, when Ukraine and Russia have been engaging in this fight forever. They're the same people and basically the same language, but who have been engaging in this fight forever. That's number one. And then NATO is a threat to Russia, okay? And NATO is a threat to those of our people in the global South, and global South is just a politically correct term for, you know, those formerly colonized nations, like different countries in Africa and Asia and the Caribbean. They're a threat to us, because it's about holding on white supremacy and imperialism to the detriment of us in the global South. And one last thing I'm going to say, because I didn't mean to go up on this.
It's fine. Because you know, me and Jill, we'll never talk.
one last thing I want to say is with regards to Russia. Now, what Putin did, I'm going to say, I'll just put that out here, was wrong because it's not right to invade a sovereign nation, right? Just like the U.S. Overthrew Gaddafi, right, and destroyed Libya. Just like Israel is bombing Pakistan, just like the U.S. is bombing Somalia. That is wrong. That is wrong. Okay, but Russia, when you look at the history of colonization, Europeans colonizing Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and all of that, Russia never was involved in the colonization. Okay, when it was Tsar Russia, it never was involved in the colonization. When it was the Soviet Union, it was never involved in the colonization. When it was the Soviet Union, it was given African nations, it was given Cuba arms to engage in their liberation struggle against the West, right? Against the colonialism of the West. Okay, so that's the history that we got to understand. Russia represents a threat because you cannot have the West and NATO be on this planet and wanting to hold on to this power structure and have Russia a separate powerful nation, right? And so Russia represents a threat to NATO and the US only because it is its own power structure in and of itself. And it was never a part of the West holding on to this white power structure. Am I making sense with that?
Yeah.
That part makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And,
I was watching Frontline did a special last night on the history of Vladimir Putin. And one of the things they talked about was how deeply affected he was by Gaddafi's death.
Wow.
And then when you see African nations, they're not like, we're not trying to get into this. We have a relationship with Russia, and it never was about colonization. You know, Russia and the Soviet Union, it never was about that. It was about the support system to help us with our liberation struggles from the claws of Western colonialization. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we have to, again, you know, and people can't even argue that without people thinking, oh, you with Putin. What I'm going to say again, what Putin did was wrong. But I'm also going to say, it's not our fight. I want those trillions of dollars to go and build up this country. You know, but war.
I mean, they wouldn't even pass another COVID relief bill.
Right. I heard that some states are running out of money.
Wow.
You know, war is profitable. Gas, you know, oil is profitable.
Yes, exactly.
And so this is, I'm just worried about this. That's what
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, no,
this the end.
Yeah, well, enjoy every day you got, because you know,
right.
This is pretty ugly.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. And I just wish folks in this country to wake up inside, especially Black people. We just wake up. What are you talking about? I stand with Ukraine. I mean, that's fine. But I didn't hear you say, I stand with Libya. I didn't hear you say, I stand with Pakistan when Israel bombing them. I didn't hear you say, I stand with Somalia with US bombing them. And still bombing
and Yemen.
Or Yemen.
You know.
Or Syria. Yeah. You know, that's fine. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Right. But I mean, but the thing is that none of those other special operations that you mentioned get the 24/7 news coverage
exactly
that this situation is getting.
Exactly.
That's the only reason people know about it.
Right. Right.
And you have to ask yourself why.
Right.
Flooding. What is it that they're not wanting us to pay attention to in that other
Right.
hand that we must, you know, have our
But
whole entire focus on?
Where are they trying to lead us? I was listening to Michael Moore's podcast today, and he is seeing it as this is the process they're going through to tug on our heartstrings so that they can drag us into yet another war.
Right.
You know.
'Cause it's probably-
And so he is encouraging us not to drink the Kool-Aid again. But yeah, we don't get this kind of coverage for anything else. So clearly something is going on.
Right.
You know,
I don't like the demonization. I mean, I think that is, and I hate when people buy into that. That it's like, wake up. Don't be so ignorant that you thinking that you could demonize this man as if, okay, he's bad and we got to do this. It's like, unpack this.
Right.
How is it profitable?
Right. It's an ignorance about global politics, geopolitics. We have no idea of the histories of these countries even before they were named what they are today, and how they are ancestrally related, and you know, their conflicts and interrelatedness. And it's really, it's like a theatrics, right? Because what do you need the global support behind for the direction of resources? So you better look at what are the resources that are trying to be controlled, as to as well as my opinion about the actors on the stage, because that's all it's ever about. You know, how is this affecting me, and then how is it going to affect my grandchildren and their children down the line? How's it going? How are things going to be made better or worse? You know, so I think a lot of it has always been successful based on the ignorance and apathy of a lot of people, not only in America, but in other countries, but mainly in America, because we're indoctrinated into this apathetic, you know, stasis where we have an idea of countries that we've never been to. We're told who they are. We don't know who these people are and what they believe. And we're not even curious about, you know, well, where do they stand? Who are they? Where, you know, what do they believe today? So, you know, it's really allows those who benefit from this kind of manipulation to continue, you know, to stock their coffers with, you know, ill-gotten gains. It's only ever about money and power. So those are the things you need to look at, you know, when these sudden movements happen on the global scale. You know, well, who owns those oil fields over there? You know, those kind of things, you know.
Exactly. And then I'm disappointed that we're not in this country. We're not protesting. We're not engaging in anti-war protest. That we really need to do that. And European countries they are, but we're not doing that. We have to engage in that. We can never abandon that. Anti-war protest.
And that's it. And you make a good point there, because in America, it's always, when you wish to say something against an armed conflict and being involved in an armed conflict is, oh, well, you don't support the troops. Well, heck yeah, we don't have, you know, plenty of people in my family are and have served. It's not about that. You know, I don't want them to have to go and die, right? Or have to go and kill someone and then suffer for the rest of their lives with some PTSD because of that, because that's a real thing. And so it's not about this so-called patriotism, you know, or supporting the troops. You've got to think beyond these imaginary borders, because they're playing this game, you know, on a different level. So, I mean, if you don't believe in the deaths of innocent people and children, right? Then you need to say something about it. You know, nobody's spitting on, well, which they have in the past, right? In the 60s and 70s, they did spit on returning, you know, veterans, but you would hope that the mindset of America is a little more mature, given the history of the things that have happened, and how many people in their own families have been involved in these conflicts, and they've seen, the damage it has done, not only to the object of, the conflict, but to the people and, other people involved in it. Even even in support structures, it affects everyone everywhere. We will never become isolationists, because everything, ant could fart on the other side of the globe and it's going to affect us some kind of way over here, to put it in, the basic crassest terms. And people, you have to get their heads out of the sand. What happens over there today can happen over here tomorrow. And by the time you open your mouth, your tools have been taken away from you, right? You've been shut down, you've been blackballed, or what do they call it? Doxed. Or online, no one will be able to hear your voice. A lot of the independent voices are being run from YouTube. They've been run off of Facebook. They've been run into Discord, whatever it's called, to Telegram. I never heard of so many social media platforms before. And it's because people are having to create these platforms where they are not being censored by special interest groups who hold the power. Right? It just freedom of speech is really a joke here, because you're free to speak the words we want you to speak, right? It's quite sad. Much like poor Ailey in button heads with the doctor here and asking questions.
Yes, Dean Walters.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like I missed something by not having the HBCU experience. I mean, I kind of had a taste of it. Everything about my life is like backwards and out of order. Before you got here, we were talking a little bit about the sororities and that whole thing. And I did end up joining a sorority when I was 35 years old. Out of college, out of grad school. But I was working with a woman who was big time in Zeta Phi Beta. And she convinced me that all of the concerns that I had about it were not true. And this was the era, they went through a whole period of hazing and, where people were getting really, really hurt. And then the Greek organizations had to put some rules in place to stop it. So I didn't have to go through, any of that craziness that people do. But I never really got active with them, because shortly after I crossed over is when my health started getting really bad, when I was going through the carbon monoxide poisoning. So I never really got involved with it. But anyway, I guess I'm a sister for life.
Of course you are.
Regardless. And then after my mom passed in my late 40s, I got a job. It didn't last long, but I got a job as a fundraiser for Payne Theological Seminary in Wilberforce, Ohio. So it's affiliated with Wilberforce University, which is an HBCU. I got a little taste of campus life there and some of the challenges. And I interviewed for a job. Thank God I didn't get it. I I believe it was to be the president of a college in Arkansas, Little Rock, a Black school, had lost their, certification?
Accreditation.
Accreditation, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, now you know I would not have made it in Little Rock.
No.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was desperate for a job, but I couldn't see myself surviving that situation.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice. I've been a little rock. No.
Yeah. So, I enjoyed reading these chapters, and but that whole experience with Dr. Oludara, where she takes him to the spot, that kind of thing. I miss having those kinds of collegiate experiences, but I grew up in the Black church,
Okay.
so there's that.
Yeah.
That counts. That counts. Oh no, I just said it counts. No, go ahead.
My son almost went to Southern, though, in NOLA.
Oh, so you almost went to Suno? Oh, really?
Yeah, because at the time my brother was an AME preacher with a church in New Orleans.
Oh.
And right about the time it was time for my son to go to college. And so he took him on the tour down there, and he was really thinking about it. But then he decided he felt like fucking around.
What time frame was that? I was there from 98 to 2001 at Suno.
My son graduated from high school in 2003.
Oh, okay, so I already left and took this job out here.
Okay. Yeah. So no, these were these I enjoyed these chapters for the vicarious,
Okay.
Vicarious experience. Yeah.
And then I do one thing that there were a number of things that she touched on and I did observe when I was a graduate student at in the AU Center, the Atlanta University Center, because that encompassed, those schools there, Spelman, Morehouse, Morris Brown, Clark, and then the two graduate schools. But
my brother that was the preacher, as well as my father, both went to Morris Brown.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? Yeah. My brother graduated from Morris Brown. He went there too.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I observed was, I know she tried to touch on a little bit on legacy students, right? Students whose parents and family members went to these schools. I saw that a lot, with students who parents went to Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, and all of that. So you do see a lot of that legacy family. In fact, my brother's older daughter, she went to Clark, Atlanta. By that time, it was Clark, Atlanta. And so she was able to get in on a legacy admissions, because, that a lot of universities use that, how they're trying to abolish affirmative action in these predominantly white institutions. But a lot of these kids, a number of kids get on admitted via legacy, because of their parents went here and their grandparents. So that's one thing that I liked, is that she showed this history of legacy, right? And then the other thing that I saw that she touched on that I observed is also issues of colorism. And I definitely saw that when I was a graduate student at Atlanta University. I saw that colorism play out, in particularly at Spelman in Morehouse, right? So not only are you have kids, and now when I think about it in retrospect, these young people might have been a part of maybe the Lynx or the Jack and Jill Club, because sometimes they congregate or hang out like that, right? Light-skinned kids with their light-skinned boyfriends. So now I'm thinking they might have been a part of Jack and Jill and Legacy and things like that. So anyway, I like how she touched on these issues, because you do see that. At least I saw that. I don't know if it still gets played out, but I definitely saw that when I was a graduate student there. I think that the show A Different World, when it came on in the 90s, what that did was that generated interest on the part of other Black communities outside of the South and outside of those who have the legacy to these schools to want to enroll in these HBCUs. And when I lived in California, you have a whole Black community that's actually, send children on HBCU tours, right? And so then that opens up another door. And so then what that does is that you're bringing in more variety of kids, not kids who are tied to a legacy, but other kind of children who see this as an additional option, another option outside of the PWI, predominantly white institution. So yeah, but in this book, she's talking about a particular time frame. But I think, again, what I'm trying to say is that I think it's probably moved away and have much more variety, moved away from legacy and have more of a variety of Black attending.
And what about the gender ratio that she was getting at? Did you see that?
Because Spelman was all female, Morehouse was all male. So you don't really see that dynamic. And then again, I was a graduate student, so I didn't know who was attending. You had the AU campus. I didn't know who was where, right? What they attended to. So I didn't see that. And then in the graduate level, it's different, right? You probably have more of a balance between male and female, because on the graduate level, particularly at the AU, you have people studying for the MBAs, you have people studying the field of education, then there's social work, there's library science, etc. And then ITC, you have people studying to be ministers and all of that. So I really didn't see, because you have all of these different schools, I didn't see the gender imbalance. You probably would see that maybe at a single school, but I didn't see that in that environment. The other thing that I did see that she doesn't mention in this book, and even though you have a lot more, I saw a much more racially diverse faculty population than I've ever seen at a predominantly white institution. So you'll see, of course, Blacks. The balance is nice. So you'll see Black and Asian and white and etc. So that you have a nice balance. At least that was my experience attending Atlanta University, as well as me teaching at Southern University in New Orleans. It's a nice balance. It's racially diverse in terms of faculty. And I don't see that. I didn't see that at City College. I didn't see that at UCLA. I don't see that, of course, at my university, that racial balance with regards to faculty, but I definitely saw it at the HBCUs.
Nice. So before you got here, Karen, I was saying I didn't get to go to the college that I wanted to. I wanted to go to American University in DC.
Oh, okay.
But my father would not fill out the financial aid forms. I don't know why. Probably because he was a preacher and had money he didn't want anybody to know about. But so I was relating to that that part where they're talking about the different financial constraints on the families and the choices that left the students with. And so, and this whole dynamic going on between Nana, who will pay for you to do pre-med, you know, and nothing else. And it's just clear to me that Ailey should not be doing pre-med. So I did not have that kind of pressure. It's kind of free to be me, but you know, it seems to me that quite a few people we have to deal with that kind of thing where they have to do what the family expects them to do, as opposed to whatever their heart is telling them to do.
Right. Yeah. Did you all enjoy these? Oh, you said you enjoy these 3 chapters, right?
Well, I enjoyed the vicarious kind of view of Black campus life. And what about the whole Booker T versus W.E.B, you know, vocational versus liberal arts kind of thing going on there?
Well, one thing that, but I know people, now I've actually studied their work, right? Because my research area is African American, 19th century, late 19th, early 20th century Black women educators. And part of it that I also studied on Du Bois and Booker T. Washington's work, because people, when we talk about Black educators during that time frame, we're always talking about the men, particularly Booker T. Washington and Du Bois. But people don't realize that they think that it's always this binary, vocational versus liberal arts or classical arts. But what you find is that, especially Booker T. Washington, he wrote more than one biography. And in his biography, when you study him and his ideas about education, I think people get him wrong. They don't understand where he was coming from. Okay, so Du Bois, Booker T. Washington was in the belly of the beast in the South, right? We were just racial terror. Whereas Du Bois had a little bit much more sophisticated form of education. He was from the North, Massachusetts, etc., and went to integrated schools. So his lived experiences and educational experiences was totally different, and that influenced his way of thinking. Whereas Booker T. Washington was an enslaved person. He walked to Hampton. And even though he was influenced by Samuel Armstrong, who was this racist, you know, I'll just leave that part there, racist, you know, who started Hampton, Booker T. Washington leaves there and starts Tuskegee, as you all know. But when he starts Tuskegee, he not only does he start a school, he teaches these students how to, and I don't see anything wrong with this. I wish I had both skills. Not only a skill as an intellectual, but also a skill as somebody who knows how to till the earth, who knows how to be an entrepreneur, who know how to make stuff. And so so these people were right there in the belly of the beast as students. And so it was about, we're either going to depend on white supremacy, and then people don't understand the philanthropic white groups who dictated the kind of education that Black folks were supposed to have. And it limited them to only doing certain things, right? Like studying to be a maid and all of that. He wanted to take it to another level. Now, you're not just going to study to be a maid. You're going to be somebody who might be an agent, you know, have a job, not a job, but a business that hires maids, and then you send them out. And that you're not just going to learn how to clean, but you're going to understand the science of cleaning. You're going to understand the science of tilling the earth and things like that. So he took it to a much more a different level, even though he was getting his monies, because the white philanthropists only wanted to limit the skills, right? You just scrubbing the floors and cleaning, but he took it to another level. You're gonna learn the science of that. You're gonna build a business off of that. In addition to the to that, with Booker T. Washington, people don't understand is that when he bought that land for Tuskegee, he also had bought surrounding land. And the reason why he bought the surrounding land is so that Black folks during that time frame could have the ability and the opportunity to buy the land and build their homes. So the surrounding community were Black folks who bought that land that he had and built their homes. And so that's important to understand. That people don't understand that. And they were Black women who went to his school to study architect and others to study how do you design this subdivision where Black folks could own homes. There's a really good book. I had to I'll stop here.
Please link some of your resources, Karen. Oh my goodness.
Great. And so that's important to understand is that that it's not either or, it encompasses all of that, you know, and even Du Bois was, in fact, when Du Bois finished his degree, he went to Tuskegee and applied for a job at Tuskegee. He met Booker T. Washington and applied for a job.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
I don't remember what happened, but I think he had another job offer. But it was not necessarily a conflict, but it's also recognizing that we have other kind of, that it's not just this or that. It encompasses, that's that Western Eurocentric way of looking at the world. It's this or that binary. But as Black folks, when we look at these educators during that time frame, they encompass more than that. It's this, the head, heart, and the hand, as well as the intellect, combining the classicals with the vocation. And the vocation is just not being a maid, but it's studying the science of it, the domestic science of cooking.
So Karen, you were not with us last week. Happy birthday. So we didn't get to hear your take on the talented 10th.
Oh, that was, I don't know. I did read last week, but I don't remember. But the talented,
she didn't really say much about it. It's just, it's song 4 is a passage from, yeah.
And one thing I will say, that this is my criticism, is that I felt that these men were very patriarchal, right? But Du Bois, he kind of went back and forth with that. Because he saw Black women as making it work, as key to our uplift, if you will. And we had to play a significant role. Particularly Black women educators had to play a significant role in terms of uplifting the race. And that's where Du Bois was. But I think that too often that we have to get out of that binary and go much deeper with studying these educators. I'm gonna y'all talk, and I'm gonna run and get these 2 books I want to share.
Okay. All right. So on that, what Karen just said made me think about the passage in the book where Uncle Root was, he was hopping around from job to job, right, and college to college, and then his wife said, "Hey, you need to go look. Look at the library. There's some archives that would pique your interest." And what does he finally find in there but a note from W.E.B. Du Bois saying exactly what Karen just said? Thank you for having me at your school. You're so gracious, and your work. He was talking to the founder of the school. Your work as a Black woman, your role is so important for the people. right? And so, and I wondered if that was, something, a fact, that, or just a device, you're right, and that she was using. But just after listening to what Karen said, now I need to know if that's a real letter somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know. In fact, I intended to look for it, but I didn't get around to it. So I don't know.
So and so that, kind of like it sheds more light on, that monolithic image that we are fed of W.B. Du Bois, because we don't have the time and patience and, curiosity.
Or the patriarchal image.
Right,
like if you just think about that, let me see, I think for some reason I think I know what page it is. Let me see. Song 4 is what I'm looking for. I think it. Nope. I thought I knew, but I don't. But if you just isolate that little piece, right, it comes off pretty patriarchal sounding. Expecting the men to save the race. And
when you do an analysis or do further reading on Du Bois' work, he articulates, he see Black women as playing a key role in that, and he articulates that. And I forgot, there is a name of a piece that he writes that, and I can't think of it right now, where he talks about that. Is it The Veil? I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because in this chapter, Jeffers makes reference to a letter that Du Bois wrote to the founder of Routledge College, the woman that was, very supportive of women. So while you were gone, Gio and I were just saying we didn't know if that was like a real letter somewhere.
Right. So I'm thinking, I'm wondering, I'm going to Google that and see if that school actually exists. It's in Georgia, right?
Yes.
So I was trying to think like what's different schools in Georgia. It's not in Atlanta. It seemed like to be in a rural part of Georgia. I'm wondering if it's like Fort Valley College or something like that. That's what I'm thinking. I will have to look.
I have an aunt that went to Fort Valley.
Oh, okay. But I'm not sure. But let me show you these. So in this book, an architect, can you all see that?
Kind of a light. Move it over a little.
Good.
An architect of education, African-American women design the New South. And so this book is good because it talks about the three women that he identified in this book were students that went to Tuskegee. They were students of Tuskegee, and they eventually learned how to do architect. And then one of the women, I think she's the one, remember I said Booker T. Washington bought land so Black folks could buy houses on them. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that one of the women was part of that designing of either some of the buildings at Tuskegee and also in that community, that surrounding community. I've never been to Tuskegee, but this book really makes me want to go there now to see this community. And the other two women, they built their own schools. And one of the schools continue to exist today with a new name.
Oh, wow.
And then this book, a friend of mine, a really good scholar friend of mine, is The Educational Thought of W.E.B. Du Bois, an Intellectual History by Derek P. Aldridge. And in this book, he does an analysis. He's a Du Bois scholar, and he does an analysis of Du Bois' educational thought, right? Which is really, so this is really important to check out. because it goes beyond this binary. Then I told you that Booker T. Washington, he has several, I actually think it's 5 biographies. And of course, we know Up From Slavery, right? But he also wrote The Story of My Life. And this tells a different kind of story than from Up From Slavery, because some of these stories, these books were slavery, they were used they were abolitionist material. Okay, so Harriet Jacobs, remember they talked about Harriet Jacobs, the incidences in the a slave girl's life, that was used as abolitionist theory, and she was a contemporary of Frederick Douglass. This was used as an abolitionist. I teach all of this. My students, my white students, be like, wow. I mean, they like, and anyway, this was used as abolitionist. But then he goes further into this in terms of his ideas about education, his ideas of the role of race. And so he had a different perspective, and I think he's really misunderstood. He wasn't an Uncle Tom, but he had a different kind of perspective.
Why do we have this?
Oh, wait a minute, one more. And then there's my larger education chapters from my experience in life. And I think there might be 2 more.
Okay, wow.
And then real quick, and then I wrote 2 books, and this is why I'm so, one of my books.
You wrote
Oh, wow.
Go ahead, Karen, go on.
This doesn't have a cover, and this book is not published anymore. But the title of my book is Uplifting the Women in the Race, the Educational Philosophy and Social Activism of Anna Julia Cooper and Nannie Helen Burroughs. And so, and so Anna Julia Cooper was always compared, this woman was highly educated. She was born into slavery, and then eventually it got her a PhD at the Sorbonne. She got it in French, okay? This woman was bad in 1925. Very few women in this country had advanced degrees, definitely not PhDs. But this Black woman, at the age of 67 years old. And so when I read about that in Paula Giddings' book, When and Where I Enter, I was like, oh my God, if this woman could get a PhD during the time frame at 67 and write it in French at the Sorbonne, during the Jim Crow era, not only just racism, but also sexism during the era, I said, I know I could get mine.
We've got no excuses, right?
It's my second book, African American Women Educators, Critical Examination of Pedagogy, and etc. And this is an edited book. I have other people do research on Black women education, do have chapters on that. So, I mean, this is like, I just showed you that because it's my area expertise when it comes to Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. And I try to get people to don't buy into the binary. One was good and one was bad.
So why do you think we have this impression, or I think we have this impression that there was such a conflict or animosity between those 2 men? Right.
Well, one has to do with, I will say this, is that Booker T. Washington, because of his stance in terms of willing to provide education for that focuses on vocational or industrial education, as it was called, is because he was able to get more philanthropic funds for his schools, right? But what he did was then he became, when the different Black folks were trying to start their schools, like Nannie Helen Burroughs, the woman I write about. Oh, no, not her, because she started through the Baptist church. But other people, they would go to Booker T. Washington and say, oh, should we fund that person? And then he would go and check out their school. And then he would say no. He would say yes or no. He had that kind of influence. And that was that was not a good thing to do. You know, it was to say, yes, this person can have the funds, and no, that person can have the funds. And so that brought about a lot of criticism. Secondly, you know, he was born into slavery. He was born in the South. He was born poor. And that the group that Du Bois traveled with, he traveled with a petty bourgeois Black group. I think Du Bois was color conscious, but I can't say. I don't remember. I haven't. David Mooney wrote a biography on him. But I think he had a level of elitism, and there was a lot of conflict.
So it was a real conflict between the two of them.
Right. I think it was and it wasn't. Because like I said, Du Bois applied to Tuskegee. I think he got the job. I don't remember. But I think another offer, I know what happened. Then Fisk came open. And he went to Fisk to teach. And I think that was why he did that. And that might have been the riff, because he was going to teach at Tuskegee and, you know, accepted the offer. And then Fisk came through and he just went on and went to Fisk.
Yeah, well, you know, it makes perfect sense to me, you know, when I look at it through a managerial eye, in the conversation I was having with Leon on last Sunday, I remember I said, you know, I mean, if everybody, if you go to McDonald's and everybody's cooking fries, you know, how do you get a burger? You know, you get a chocolate shake. You know, we need to have all the skills. Right. You know, we need to be able to operate on all the fronts. We can't all be doing the same thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
yeah, and before you got here, Gia was talking about her experience in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, and the kind of IT and engineering work, you know, that she did. And I said, well, did you learn how to fly a plane? You know, but of course not, because that's another job with another set of skills.
Exactly. And then who was allowed to let in the door in terms of race and gender?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, okay. Thank you, Karen. We learned so much.
Absolutely. I added all those books to my Amazon shopping cart. I want you to know.
Yeah. Well, maybe I will create a post that includes them. Share with everybody.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Right. So, okay, are we on for next week? What's the story? Or do we have a break?
There's a break.
We have a break next week. Okay.
Okay.
Any final thoughts? Anybody wants to? Let me look at my summary again. Anything else we're missing? Anything to say about those boys? Yeah. Liberté, Égalité, fraternité, and the Fanonne and Algeria. You know, she's touching on just so many ideas and events and people. But not going into any real depth about any of it. And so, you know, I am starting to wonder, are we going to see the depth as the book progresses, or is this just going to be the tempo, you know?
Oh, right. You never know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is I do love the historical piece of it, and I wish I had more. And I wish she had written it differently. I'm just being totally honest. I wish it was like book one or part one and part two, the contemporary, because I love the historical piece.
Yeah.
This other part with Ailey, it's not speaking to me that much.
Yeah.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's just seemed too juvenile to me because it's more like a young YA. And I'm just
no, I feel the same way. I just, we're still only in the 200s or something. I think Ailey, what is she, 17 now, I think. So, maybe as she grows older,
I'm ready for her to skip.
Yeah, well.
I'm tired of the young adult experiences. I really am ready for her to be a grown ass woman, so she can go ahead and research.
Tell us how you really feel, Carrie. Oh,
yes, I understand.
Well, at least you're able to find something in there that you like, you and appreciate. So that's cool.
Thank you. Right.
So
I always try to find something that
I like. Yeah. Okay, but what I was saying about the depths, I follow Honorée on Twitter, and I haven't been following her that long, so I don't have a real sense, but it does seem, what I've seen thus far seems a little shallow. So, so maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. I feel that way about Terry McMillan. I had to stop following her Twitter feed. It's just.
Well, a lot of the authors, they use social media as a marketing piece, and it's just to keep people's eyes on them.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to hear something deep, you probably have to go watch them speak, someplace where you can ask them real in-depth historical questions or something.
Right.
Which of course you'll have to pay for.
There are some I follow who are like politically conscious and articulate, social issues. At least two people I could think of, and they're Asian Americans, right? Like what's his name? Viet Dong. He's the one that wrote The Sympathizer. He won a Pulitzer Prize for it. So he's very socially conscious, right? And even before the Asians being attacked, he was always socially conscious. And Min Jin Lee, her book Pinchko was a finalist for the National Book Award a few years ago, and it's coming on Apple TV. It's going to be a movie on Apple TV.
Oh no, I said, oh wow. I didn't.
Yeah, that book is good. I've been reading that book. I really enjoy it. So anyway, the point I was making, I understand Terry McMillan because I had been following her. I don't follow her anymore. But there are other writers that I follow who have a strong social consciousness.
Right.
Yeah, and I appreciate what they have to say.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So my jury is still out on Honorée.
Okay, this book or
I didn't know, just in terms of her Twitter.
Okay.
Presence,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And and I can understand after writing, a book like this. Right, maybe all you want to do is like play with your lips or something for a couple of years, right?
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? It's fine. Let her be her. You're right. You know, she can't
Right.
please everyone.
Right.
So, and just like Karen said, you know, there are some authors out there who are putting forth, you know, some stuff that resonates. If that's where you are and that's what you want to see, you'll gravitate to them. So we can't
Right.
expect everybody to be something that they're not ready to be, right? Or maybe they're taking a break from it. Because let's
Right.
face it, it's been a heavy 2 to 5 years we've had.
It sure has. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, I'll see y'all.
Oh, but I do have to tell y'all this quick story. So one thing Honorée shared on Twitter was that she was at some fancy restaurant with a fancy Black man, and they were standing outside waiting on their fancy car. Mm-hmm. And a white man walked up to him and asked him to go get his car.
Oh, it was the valet. Okay.
Right. So she was on Facebook like, what the F? I'm telling you all, the day after I read that, I was in a thrift store with one of my girlfriends, and she was standing online. I was sitting on a high stool, kind of next to where she was in line. Mm-hmm. We both have on our street clothes. And this white woman looks at me and says, I don't know what she asked me, but she asked me she asked me some questions like I was a fucking clerk.
Right,
and I said to her, does it look like I work here?
To which she replied,
she said, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Well, people don't get out much, do they?
They really don't get out much. And then she spent the whole time we were online apologizing to me as we walked out on the street. She was apologizing to me. But the question is, I did not have on
your little vest. Ask me something. Right, the little tag.
Wow. Right.
All I had was my black skin.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all she needed to know.
Hey, maybe you looked kind, right? You were kind and receptive, so she felt safe asking you a question. Maybe you did.
Oh, God.
The adventures of colored folk in America. No.
Yes. But I don't, people do ask me for directions on the street all the time. They say I just look like I know where I'm going, right?
Okay, so see.
But I have never had that experience in the store. But I'm telling you, it happened like the day after I had read that thing on Honorée's page.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
So that's interesting. I could say maybe you drew that energy to you because of that.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Well, the other thing is, Americans are 75% crazy right now. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, y'all. Have a good week.
Okay.
Karen, I guess I'll see you Sunday.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.